So in 1791, Washington created the district states. That means he overwrote on every land a district state. In other words, a state upon a state. And the reason they did that is because the banks who were first set up were private banks owned by the Crown. What they did was the bank had been sued by the state of Maryland, wanted to tax it. And John Marshall, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, owned 7,200 shares of the foreign bank. He was listed as a foreign stockholder. He was an American, he was the United States, and he was still listed as a foreign stockholder because of the bank being foreign to this country. It was called the first bank in the United States, but that doesn't mean it belonged to the United States. It was just the first bank in the United States. And it was private and foreign. So he ruled for the bank, because had he not ruled for the bank and let the state of Maryland control it and tax the bank, he would have lost all of his shares, and it would have proven that the bank was not in total control of everything in this country. And that's why Washington in 71 created the districts, so that the district courts could sit any time a bank ran into trouble. That is where the district courts of the United States emanated from.
To protect the banks.
Yes, to protect the banks, that's all.
You know, it seemed to me strange that if Washington was to be what he was said to have been, and Jefferson and such, and there's a lot of argument on both sides.
Right.
But the thing that I thought the colonists had, one of the reasons why they came here, was the fact that the things they didn't like was being basically defrauded by the Bank of England.
Yep, you're exactly right. And if you go on to the Informer site, it would behoove everybody to read the history of the American bar. There's only excerpts in there from the whole book that I have. But you will see that the people despised the common law. It was too harsh. They hated the common law. But everybody here in this country seems the common law is one of the best things since white rice,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's ugly.
Well,
and they can get a good grasp of just reading it, and there are certain highlighted portions in there in the ATG Press site on the bar. And the book is excellent. It's an excellent book. It's just too bad that you can't get it anymore.
Well, I want to tell people again, I've been remiss in doing this, that this is the Grassy Knoll, and with us is the Informer, who posts work on the website atgpress.com. And that particular that you just mentioned to me, I'm on the site now. What is it that you would have people read?
The history of the American bar is probably called the American Bar.
Okay. And also, there is a chance that if people do want to purchase some of your works, how would they best do that?
On the bottom of the ATG site is the address of where to send the money and or the money order, and it gives instructions in there, and that's the only way that they would have to
purchase your writings, right?
Right.
On that website, you have in one place out of print, not available. Are the rest of those titles still available? The other 8 or so? Okay.
Right.
All right.
Now, where I got this book from, I got it from the Clemson University Library, The History of the American Bar. So it's a complete copy from it. And like I say, it was printed and copyrighted in 1911 and 1939, and the edition that I have is 1966. That's the last time it was written by Howard Fertag. And I think it's got a Library of Congress card number, and the number is 66-24357.
Right. Okay.
And I have this so much porcupine that I think about every page is porcupine with quick post-it notes.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I mean, it is that important to read it, and you get a good flair of how the bar and where all of the lawyers came from the middle and inner temples. And the Templar was the crown. It wasn't the king. It wasn't the King of England, the Queen of England. It was the crown. And the crown had all the Templars, and from the middle and the inner, and it will describe the Inns of Court, which we have in this country today. And whether every lawyer knows it or not, they're under the control of the crown.
Another question, if I could. Let's see. Okay, with the District of Columbia
Right.
and the 14th Amendment, the way I read it, at least to my understanding, is that didn't at that time and that point forward the American people pick up the tab for whatever the District of Columbia ran up?
Yeah, because if you look at the last paragraph, it says that you will not be able to question the public debt.
Okay.
All right. So if you can't question the public debt, aren't you a slave?
Well, you certainly are powerless.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like it's more than the first part, but the second and the third on the 14th Amendment are the critical parts, because this is why the courts cannot rule for you, because they would be in violation of the 14th Amendment. I think it's the third article of the 14th Amendment, the third paragraph, where they would have to follow the dictates of the 14th Amendment. And if you go in and question the public debt, which would be a, quote, tax protester, they are not to side with the tax protester, because they would be in violation of the third paragraph of the 14th Amendment.
All right, a couple things real quick. Before this 14th Amendment, then, the
Right.
district was not supported financially by the citizens.
It was only supported by trade and tariff, and that's how the country's run, because now the income tax actually goes to pay the crown, and which is the Federal Reserve, just another name for the crown, and not one penny goes to operate the country. It's all still by trade and tariffs.
After I leave you, I'm going to check out this website. I'm just going to ask you if this rings a bell at all for you, because I cannot come up with this individual's name. It was a name that I used for you also. I mean, it wasn't his name.
Okay.
Do you remember something on apfn.org that there was somebody who's a female friend or whatever put up his writings on the site, and it had to do, he was called the something or other, and I can't remember now. It may still be there. I'll have to take a look. And one of the things he said was that if you check out a certain IRS form, something about how you can, it actually goes back to the crown.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever run into a form that stated such? I mean, and like I said, this is a little murky, so I'll be more exact.
Well,
next
no,
time
the only thing that traces back to the crown is in the IMF in the 6209 with the 300 code, which is the treaty with the United Kingdom for taxes. That's
Okay.
right in the 300 code. In fact, in the New History of America, I listed part of that in there. The actual part from the individual master file.
Okay, but I mean, what we were.
It's okay. It's they've actually changed the IMF code 300 to 309 of a barred assessment, and a CP55, which is generated a valid for a master file transaction code 30. All right. The BMF, that's under business master file. Now, naturally, it would be business because it's all corporation. The 390, 399 now reads U.S. UK tax treaty claims.
Okay.
So we've been in financial servitude since the Treaty of 1783.
Right. I mean, that's ironic because if we did fight to get free of what we call taxation without representation, we got right back into it again, didn't we?
Right. Yep.
Um,
Yep. And a little thing, a little offshoot. There's a fella here in North Carolina that has been fighting the property tax thing and claiming, that he should own his property and they shouldn't own it. So when he was into the head tax people down in the area where he lives, he asked them point blank, and he was on also a driver's license issue, and it was right across the hall. Well, the driver's license issue person happened to see him there and sort of nonchalantly walked over to the property tax person and stood by the door, and he asked the property tax, would you tell me what makes me liable to pay this property tax? And the woman sat there for a while and looked up and saw the other woman there, and she says, quote, what do you have in your wallet, end quote. And he looked at her. He